Mr. Ahin Teoh came to Australia from Malaysia in 1988. That same year, he married Helen Lim, who had been the de facto spouse of Mr. Teoh's brother, who was now deceased. Ms. Lim had 4 children, and between them, they then had 3 more, so there were 7 in total. Helen was a heroin addict, and much of the responsibility for looking after the children fell to Mr. Teoh. In late 1988, after his marriage, Mr. Teoh applied for Australian residency. However, while that application was being considered, he was convicted for heroin importation and sentenced to 6 years in prison with a minimum of 2 years, 8 months. The Immigration Department rejected his residency application on the basis that he was not a person of good character. The minister ordered his deportation. The complexity here was that around the same time, Australia ratified the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, which came into force in September 1990, before the deportation decision was made. Article 3.1 of the Convention says, "In all actions concerning children, whether undertaken by public or private social welfare institutions, courts of law, administrative authorities or legislative bodies, the best interests of the child shall be a primary consideration." Teoh argued that because of this convention, the department should have asked him for submissions about how his deportation would affect the children, and the department should consider their best interests as a primary consideration when deciding whether to deport him. This sounds feasible, but international agreements are not actually binding on governments. They are merely a gentleman's agreement between countries, and not really law at all. Still, a narrow majority in the High Court found that it is legitimate for people to expect that Australia will act in accordance with agreements the nation has made. Chief Justice Mason and Justice Dean said, "Ratification of a convention is a positive statement by the executive government of this country to the world and to the Australian people that the executive government and its agencies will act in accordance with the convention. That positive statement is an adequate foundation for a legitimate expectation, absent statutory or executive indications to the contrary." As a result, they found that the department should have invited submissions on the effect of the deportation upon the children, and that their failure to do so was a breach of procedural fairness.